Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Commander's Contingencies podcast. Today we're going to change it up and I'm going to brew a deck right on the podcast. So recently I've been thinking about a land throwing deck. Land throwing is discarding cards from your hand in order to deal damage to things. So most people would go with a Borborygmos deck, but I decided that I wanted to add black to make it a Jund deck. So let's get to brewing. So right now I'm on EDH Rec and I'm looking at the Jund commanders. And the one that pops out to me right now is Lord Windgrace, because Lord Windgrace is 2, a black, a red, and a green for a legendary creature, legendary planeswalker Windgrace. And its +2 is discard a card, then draw a card. If a land card is discarded this way, you may draw an additional card. And its -3 is return up to 2 target land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that -3 can help me pump out more damage. Alright, that is the only Jund commander that even remotely works with it. So, I went to the Lord Windgrace deck, and I'm gonna make a new deck on Arcadeck. Alright, so I'm gonna start with cards that I know, such as Seismic Assault. Seismic Assault is red for an enchantment, and it says discard a land card. Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to any target. Then I'm going to do Storm Cauldron. Storm Cauldron is 5 for an artifact, and it says each player may play an additional land during each of his or her turns. And whenever a land is tapped for mana, return it to its owner's hand. And Borborygmos Enraged. Borborygmos Enraged is 4 red for a legendary creature Cyclops, a 7/6 with trample. Whenever Borborygmos Enraged deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Discard a land card. Borborygmos Enraged deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Then I will add in the commander, Lord Windgrace, and set it as commander. Alright, let's see. So, now I'm going to use filters to see. Let's see, discard a land card. Let's see, how does this work? Oh, this is great. We have Ayula's Influence. Green for an enchantment. Discard a land card. Create a 2/2 green bear creature token. Bone Miser. 4 and a black for a creature zombie wizard. Whenever you discard a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever you discard a land card, add black. Whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. Living Twister. 1 and a red, discard a land card. Living Twister deals 2 damage to any target. Lightning Storm is 1 red for an instant. Lightning Storm deals X damage to target creature or player, where X is 3 plus the number of charge counters on it. And I may discard a land card to put 2 charge counters on Lightning Storm. You may choose a new target for it. Any player may play this ability, but only if Lightning Storm is on the stack. Molten Vortex, red, discard a land card. Molten Vortex deals 2 damage to target creature or player. What else? Seismic Assault, Simian Brawler. Okay. That is all of those cards. Let's see what happens if we go on the Lord Windgrace page and filter with Seismic Assault. What do we have here? Seismic Assault is in 237 decks. Let's see. Oh, this is great. This is very closely related. Life from the Loam. Life from the Loam is Life from the Loam is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Return up to 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. That's great. The Gitrog monster is 3 and a green for a legendary creature frog horror. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice the Gitrog monster unless you sacrifice a land. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever one or more cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. Oh, that reminds me, I should add Burgeoning. Burgeoning is a single green for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. And thinking of Exploration. Exploration is a single green for an enchantment. And it says you may play an additional land card on each of your turns. So I should throw in Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse because I might forget about those while I'm building the land base. Ramunap Excavator is also great. Ramunap Excavator is 2 and a green for a 2/3 creature Naga Cleric. You may play land cards from your graveyard. What else do we have? Crop Rotation. I can sack a land to get a land from my library. I don't have any intention on making the budget large enough to add in utility lands, but if I end up doing that, I might want to do that. Splendid Reclamation is 3 and a green for a sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Minenden Wildborn is 2 a red and a green for a legendary creature elf ally. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. And it says red-green, return a land you control to its owner's hand. A target creature gains trample until end of turn. So I can play additional lands and I can bounce them back. Ooh. Locus of Rage is 3 red, green for a legendary creature elemental. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Whenever Omnath, Locus of Rage, or another elemental you control dies, Omnath deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Crucible of Worlds is 3 for an artifact, and it says you may play land cards from your graveyard. Oh, it's only $23. It went down. It's still expensive, but Scapeshift is 2 green for sorcery. Sacrifice any number of lands. Search your library for that many land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Shadow of the Grave is 1 and a black for an instant. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. I will open another tab with EDH Rec for Borborygmos Enraged decks. That way I can look at those lists, because they would use very similar cards. Or red, green for a legendary creature Cyclops 7/6 with trample. And when it deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Put all land cards revealed this way into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And I can discard a land to have it deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Okay, Azusa. Lost but Seeking. Azusa is 2 and a green for a legendary creature human monk. 1/2. You may play up 2 additional lands on each of your turns. I'll put in Titania for Protector of Argoth. And since I've decided now that I want to incorporate some traditional land synergies as well as a sub-theme, because I don't think land throwing is going to give me a full deck, I will open a tab with Titania And I will open a tab with Omnath, and I will open a tab with Gitrog. Lotus Cobra is 1 and a green for a 2/1 creature snake, and it says landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may add 1 mana of any color. Avenger of Zendikar is 5 green for a 5/5 creature elemental, and when Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. And it says landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature you control. Is Elvish Reclaimer good enough? Not sure. I'll just throw it in and I'll probably cut it later. Elvish Reclaimer is a single green for 1/2, and it gets +2/+2 as long as there are 3 or more land cards in your graveyard. And it says 2 untap, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Or you know what? Now that I've decided to incorporate some more traditional land synergies, it is going to be really good because I can grab a fetch land, which I can cast over and over with Crucible of Worlds, plus with all the landfall triggers. Now that'll be good. Plus having cheap creatures is important. Eternal Witness is 1 green for a creature, human shaman, 2/1. And when it enters the battlefield, I may return target card from my graveyard to my hand. Tireless Tracker is 2 and a green for a 3/2 creature, human scout. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. And whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. Investigating is putting a colorless clue token onto the battlefield with 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Okay, Worm Harvest is great if I'm going to be discarding a lot of lands. Worm Harvest is 2 black, green. So not just black or green, the hybrid mana symbols. And it says create a 1/1 green, black, and green worm creature token for each land card in your graveyard. And it has retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other cost. Ooh, retrace is great. Let's search for some cards with Flame Jab deals 1 damage to target creature or player for 1 mana sorcery. It's interesting. I'll throw it in. I've got a lot of synergies with... I'll throw in some synergies with damage. Monstrify, no. Ooh, Raven's Crime. Is that good enough? Target player discards a card for a black, and it has retrace. I'm gonna say it's not. Reality Scramble is 2 red for a sorcery, and it says put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card that shares a type with that permanent. A card type with that permanent. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I'm gonna throw that in. I don't think it's good enough, but it might end up being good enough. Throes of Chaos. Throes of Chaos is 3 and a red for a sorcery with Cascade and Retrace. Cascade is when you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled card on the bottom of your library in a random order. Ren 6 is red-green for a legendary creature, legendary planeswalker Ren. +1, return up to 1 land card from your graveyard to your hand. -1, Ren 6 deals 1 damage to any target. -7, you get an emblem with instant and sorcery cards in your graveyard have retrace. That is great. World Shaper is 3 and a green for a creature Merfolk Shaman, and whenever World Shaper attacks, you may put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and whenever World Shaper dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Oracle of Moldiah is 3 and a green For a 2/2 elf shaman, you may play an additional land on each of your turns and play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library if it's a land card. Harrow is 2 and a green for an instant, and it says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a land and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Wayward Swordtooth is 2 and a green for a creature dinosaur, and it has Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. And you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and it can't attack or block unless you have the city's blessing. City's blessing is pretty easy to get. Rampaging Baloths. Baloths is 4 green for a creature beast 6/6 with trample. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. Obnixilis the Fallen is 3 black for a legendary creature demon, and it has landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target player lose 3 life. If you do, put 3 +1/+1 counters on Obnixilis the Fallen. And it is a 3/3. Safekeeper, which is a green for a creature human wizard. Sacrifice a land, target 1/1. Target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. So not only can I sacrifice my lands, I can also protect my things. Turn Timber Sour. Okay, so this is starting to get a little bit unfocused and lean towards general land synergies. But I think I can bring this back. Once I finish looking through this, I'm going to look through some more specific land chucking ones. Centaur Vinecrasher enters the battlefield with a number of 1/+1/+1 counters on it equal to the number of land cards in all graveyards. And whenever a land card is put into a graveyard from anywhere, I may pay green. If I do, return Centaur Vinecrasher from your graveyard to your hand. I'm gonna say no on that one. Dread Presence is good. Dread Presence is 3 and a black for a 3/3 creature nightmare, and it says, whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. You draw a card and you lose a life, and Dread Presence deals 2 damage to any target, and you gain 2 life. Sure, Swamp is a little bit limiting, but that's fine. I can work with that. Cavalier of Flame is 2 red for a creature elemental knight, and it says, red creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste. And when Cavalier of Flame enters the battlefield, discard any number of cards, then draw that many cards. And whenever it dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. This card is great for 2 reasons, because 1, I get to wheel, and 2, I get to deal X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in my graveyard. So, I'm thinking, what are other real effects? Wheel of Fortune, which I will probably cut because it is $100. But, we can throw it in the maybe board. Let's see. Molten Psyche is each player shuffles the cards from his or her hand into his or her library, then draws that many cards. If you control 3 or 4 more artifacts, Molten Psyche deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards that player has drawn this turn. Ooh, did I not put in a Soul Ring yet? How did I not put in a Soul Ring yet? Speaking of staples, I should put in the Talisman of the Cult. We have Talisman of Resilience, which is tap at a black or a green, and it deals 1 damage to you. Or I can tap it for a colorless. We have Talisman of Indulgence, which is 2, and I can tap it for colorless. Or I can tap it for a black or a red, and it'll deal the damage to me. And finally, Talisman of Impulse, which is 2 for an artifact. And it says tap, add a colorless to your mana pool, or tap, add a red or green to your mana pool. Talisman of Impulse deals 1 damage to you. That means I should also throw in the signets. Let me fix the color filter. Alright, we have Rakdos Signet, which is 2 for an artifact. Tap, add black or red. And Ghoul Signet, which is 2 for an artifact, and it says tap, a colorless tap, add red and green. Rakdos Signet is 2 for an artifact. Tap, add black, red to your mana pool. Ghoul Signet is 2 for an artifact. 1 tap, add red, green to your mana pool. Golgari Signet is 2 for an artifact. 1 tap, add black, green to your mana pool. Rakdos Signet is 2 for an artifact. Tap, 1 tap, add black, red to your mana pool. An Arcane Signet is add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Let's throw in Command Tower. Let's throw in the fetch lands too. Let's see. So the fetch lands say search, and they are wooded foothills can grab a mountain or forest. Windswept heath can grab a forest or plains, but really I just want a forest. Verdant catacombs can grab a swamp or a forest. Oh, by the way, all the fetch lands, they basically read tap, pay 1 life, sacrifice X fetch land, search your library for a, and then it's 2 different lands. So I'm just going to say what lands they are and put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Scalding Tarn is islands and mountains. What does that do? No. Ooh, should I go with the slow fetches? The slow fetches are the fetches, but you don't take a damage, and they enter tapped. Yeah, I'm gonna throw them in. Rocky Tar Pit is a slow fetch that gets a swamp or a mountain. Polluted Delta gets a island or swamp. It's a normal fetch. Prismatic Vista is a land. It says tap, pay 1 life, sacrifice Prismatic Vista. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Myriad Landscapes, that's an interesting decision. Sure, I'll throw it in. It's a land and it enters the battlefield tapped, and I can either tap for colorless or I can pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice it. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Mountain Valley is a slow fetch that gets a mountain or a forest. Misty Rainforest is a fetch that gets a forest or an island. Marsh Flats is a fetch that gets a plains or a swamp. Grasslands is a slow fetch that gets a forest or plains. Fabled Passage is a land. So sacrifice Fabled Passage, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that card. That's good. Evolving Wilds, Esper Panorama. Bloodstained Mire is the Rakdos fetch land, or black or red. Bad River is a slow fetch, and it can grab islands or swamps. And Arid Mesa is a land, and is a fetch land, and I can get a mountain or plains. Keep in mind, you're not going to want to run these if it's budget. We have Stomping Ground. It's a mountain forest, and it enters the battlefield. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. Overgrown Tomb is a swamp forest. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, enters the battlefield tapped. Blood Crypt is a swamp mountain. and when it enters, you may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters untapped. Oh, how many lands do I want to run? I'll go 43 for now. So I have 43 lands right now. Oh, I'm at 96 cards. I'm gonna have to cut some lands or cut some cards. Got a birds. Got... Ooh, Scourge Familiar is good. Yeah, it's fine actually. It's not amazing. Scourge Familiar is 4 and a black for an imp. 3/2 flying. Choose and discard a card. Add black to your mana pool. Ooh, Assassin's Trophy. Let's see, so we have Assassin's Trophy. Right, we have Beast Within. And we have Chaos Warp. Chaos Warp is 2 and a red for an instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into his or her library, then reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a permanent card, he or she puts it onto the battlefield. Beast Within is 2 and a green for an instant. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green beast creature token. Assassin's Trophy is a black and a green for an instant. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield, then shuffle their library. Vendetta is black for an instant. Destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. You lose life equal to that creature's toughness. That's great. Constant Mists. Constant Mists is 1 and a green for an instant. Buy back, sacrifice a land. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn. Bedevil. Yeah, I'll throw in Bedevil. Bedevil is black, red for an instant. Destroy target artifact, target creature, or target planeswalker. Got a Worldly Tutor. Yeah, I'll throw that in. Got a Demonic Tutor. I'll throw in a... What else? Cultivate and Kodama's View. Decimate is 2, a red and a green for sorcery. Destroy target artifact, target creature, target enchantment, and target land. Gamble is a single red for a sorcery. Search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, then shuffle your library. Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act is 8 and a red for sorcery. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield, and it deals 13 damage to each creature. Oh, Chain Reaction is good. Oh, we have Faithless Looting. Faithless Looting is always good. Sign in Blood and Night. Horn of Greed is good. Works for my opponents too, but it's a great combo with Burgeoning. Horn of Greed is 3 for an artifact. Whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. Tectonic Reformation is 2 and a red for an enchantment, and it says each land card in your hand has cycling 2. It also has cycling 2. It has cycling red. It also has cycling 2. Discard, draw a. Retreat to Hagra. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains Death Touch, or each opponent loses 1 life and you get Shore. Hagra. I want to run a lot of cards that deal incremental damage for my lands doing things, because that's the thing that the deck is focused on. Squandered Resources is black-green for an enchantment. Sacrifice your land, enter your mana pool 1 mana of any type the sacrificed land could produce. Realm Lich is 3 black-green for Zombie Elf Shaman. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, actually. What else do we have? could be interesting. I could run cards that double draw. Nah, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to run discard outlets, which I'm getting a lot of here. Oh, Nature's Claim. Nature's Claim is one is a green for an instant, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. So this is playgroup dependent. I usually go with either Nature's Claim, Frozen Grip, or what's the one that shuffles into its owner's library or exiles a card from a graveyard? TG, green, enchant, and artifact, shuffle. Okay, well, I think that the green enchant and artifact removal is really dependent, meta dependent. But I would say usually you're going to choose either Nature's Claim, which is green for an instant, choose target artifact or enchantment, destroy target artifact or enchantment, its controller gains 4 life. The Glamour, which is 1 and a green, or Unravel the Aether, they're the same thing. Choose target artifact or enchantment, its owner shuffles it into his or her library. And Return to Nature, which is 1 in a green, just choose 1, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, exile target card from a single graveyard. Or Frozen Grip, which is 2 in a green for destroy target artifact or enchantment, and it has Split Second. Split Second says, as long as the spell is on the stack, players can't cast spells or activate abilities that aren't mana abilities. For this deck's purposes, I'm going to go with Frozen Grip, and if I end up having a high curve, I will cut that. For nature, I'm going to throw in Ad Nauseam. Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion. Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion is 2 red for a legendary creature zombie minotaur warrior, a 5/4 with trample. And whenever Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red. Until end of turn, you don't lose mana as steps and phases. And Winds of Change is a single red for a sorcery, and it says each player counts the cards in his or her hand, shuffles those cards into his or her deck, and then draws that many cards. Yes. Dark Deal is 2 and a black for sorcery. Each player discards all the cards in his or her hand, then draws that many cards -1. Torment of Hailfire is X black for sorcery. Repeat the following process X times. Each opponent loses 3 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. And Exsanguinate is X black for a sorcery, and it says each opponent loses X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. These are great because there's a lot of ways that I can pump out mana, and to be able to turn that into a game win. It's really... we have Damnation. Damnation is always good. Oh, I almost forgot about... Toxic Deluge. Toxic Deluge is 2 and a black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to cast Toxic Deluge, pay X life. All creatures get -X until end of turn. Ooh, Creeping Renaissance is great. Creeping Renaissance is 2 and a 3 green for sorcery. Choose a permanent type. Return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand. And it has flashback. 5 green. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then exile it. Oh, Necropotence and Necrologia. Necropotence is black for an enchantment, and it says skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Pay 1 life. Exile the top card of your library face down. Put that card into your hand at the beginning of the next end step. And Necrologia is play Necrologia only during your end step, and as an additional cost to play it, pay any amount of life and draw cards equal to the amount of life paid. Faith of the Devoted is 2 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever you cycle or discard a card, you may pay 1. If you do, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So we have the 3 ones that enter tapped and tap for a mana of that color, and cycle for 1 mana of that color. We have the 3 ones that enter the battlefield tapped, tap for a mana of that color, and cycle for 2 colorless. And we have the 3 ones that tap for 1 mana that have the land types and are 2 colors and enter tapped, and they can cycle for 2. So that is 9 of them. What else is there? Oh, there's also the 3 that are deserts, enter tapped, tap for that color, and can cycle for 1 and 1 of that color. Alright, and the one other one is Blasted Landscape, which just enters untapped and taps for colorless and can cycle for 2. There's also Ash Barrens, which can tap for colorless, and it has basic land cycling. Torbran Thane of Redfell is 1 red for a 2/4 legendary creature, Dwarf Noble. If a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. It comes up. Fiendish Duo. 4 red for a creature devil with 5/5 with first strike. If a source would deal damage to an opponent, it deals double that damage to that player instead. I do not have white, so no Gisela. Okay. So let's look at Barbarigmos decks. Okay. What have we got? So Alhamart's Archive. Alhamart's Archive is 5 for a legendary artifact. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. And if you would draw a card except for the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Fairy's Puzzle Box is 4 for an artifact. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts the cards in his or her hand on the bottom of his or her library in any order, then draws that many cards. Ghast Grimoire. 4 for an artifact. Whenever an opponent discards a card from his or her hand, you may draw a card. So I also have cards like Snake Umbra and Keen Sense that basically say whenever an enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Okay. Praetor's Council is 5 green for sorcery. Return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Council. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Illusionists Bracers, I think I'm going to end up cutting. It's whenever an ability of equipped creature is activated. If it isn't a mana ability, you may copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Again, that'll probably only work with 2 or 3 creatures, so it's not that good. What do we have? Am I looking at Rishkar's Expertise? Yeah, what about Power Draw? Where are my creatures? I do have a couple of big creatures, but not too many. It's mana cost. What else do we have? Buccaneer. That's great with all my everything, actually. This card is so underrated. Totally gonna make it my card of the day. Look in here. If I decide to do card of the day, I don't know if I'm doing that or not. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's amazing. Nullspine Dragon is 5 red for a creature dragon. Whenever Nullspine Dragon comes into play, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to target opponent. This Oracle. Sandstone Oracle is 7 mana for a 4/4 artifact creature Sphinx with flying. When Sandstone Oracle enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. That's great. What else do we have? Cozen Tusker, Xenagos, Rurikthar. I like Zerta Druid because I'm probably gonna want more ramp, and Zerta Druid can deal incremental damage, which this deck really likes. Barrel down Sokanzon is 2 red-green for an instant, 2 and a red for an instant arcane. Sweep. Return any number of mountains you control to their owner's hands. Barrel down Sokanzon deals damage to target creature equal to twice the number of mountains returned this way. Sink into Takanuma. Sorcery Arcane. Sweep. Return any number of swamps you control to their owner's hand. Target player discards a card for each swamp returned this way. Reforge the Soul is 3 red for sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. And its miracle. 1 in a red, you may cast this card for its miracle cost. When you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn. Rites of Spring is 1 in a green. Discard any number of cards from your hand. Search your library for that many basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. Ooh, this card wants a Reliquary Tower and a Thought Vessel. Reliquary Tower is a land. You have no maximum hand size. Tap, add colorless. And Thought Vessel is 2 for an artifact. Tap, add 1 mana to your mana pool, and you have no maximum hand size. Scouting Trek is 1 in a green for a sorcery, and it says, search your library for any number of basic land cards, reveal them, and set them aside. So shuffle your library, then put those cards on top of it in any order. Let's add that to the deck. That way I could just wheel and get all the lands. Great when I'm going off. What else do I have? Come on. What have we got? It's damage doublers. Nah. I don't think I want to run any damage doublers. They're too risky. Okay. And that would be the end of the Borborygmos section. Let's do a quick scan of Titania. This commander. What a land chucking Titania deck have? I don't think that exists. What have we got? Eternal Witness, Azusa, Lotus Cobra, Sullen Safekeeper. I don't know. No idea what it have. I'm gonna go with Ayula's Influence. You know what? I'm just gonna not filter. I'll just look through it. Great Henge is interesting. Gonna go ahead and say no to that. I'm not running enough creatures. Enough big creatures. Well, how many creatures do I have in the deck? Oh, 33. Never mind. I'm also running 168 cards, so it's probably going to end up getting cut. I am running like 50 lands, though, because I didn't fine-tune that. What other cards? Just trying to find the cards that I haven't yet. Crater Hoof. The Hoof. We have upon a time is 1 and a green. For an instant, if this spell is the first spell you've cast this game, you may cast it without paying its mana cost, and look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So I know I want to do a Nekasar sub-theme. Not really a Nekasar sub-theme, just a wheel effect sub-theme. So the question is, do I want just wheels, or do I want to also go into things that when my opponents draw cards, they take damage, and things that have them deal extra damage, have them draw extra cards? Good thing about having my opponents draw extra cards is I also draw extra cards, but I think I'm just going to go with wheel effects and big waste. Not is 1 in a black for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, add black to your mana pool. Whenever an opponent discards a non-land, non-creature card, draw a card. Dragon Mage is 5 red for creature dragon wizard. Whenever Dragon Mage deals combat damage to a player, each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. Archfiend of Ifnir of High Tower. It's a 3/3 with flying and lifelink, and whenever it attacks, defending player discards a card. That could get really Ancient Tomb, I guess. Okay. So I have compiled all of these cards. I currently have 177 cards, but that does include 57 lands. So I'm just gonna start cutting cards. Let's see, what is that? Yeah, I'm gonna cut Keen Sense. I don't have enough cards for it to be effective. Green for an enchantment or enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. That's good. That is Squandered Resources is interesting. Black-green for an enchantment. Sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type the sacrificed land could produce. Play this ability as a mana source. I'm gonna leave it in, see what synergies I have. I'm also gonna cut Snake Umbra, which is 2 and a green for an enchantment, or enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. Do I want to cut all the landfall cards? Because sure, I'll be playing lands, but that's not my main synergy. Then again, with cards such as Splendid Reclamation, that's amazing. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So once I've chucked them all. No, but then I should win at that point. Yeah, I'm gonna cut everything that's related to landfall. Lotus Cobra. I'm gonna cut Stormfist Crusader. What else? Tireless Tracker is good enough. There's a lot of cards that let me play extra land cards. Dread Partisans is good enough. Do I really want to be playing that many extra land cards? I know that there's a lot of ways to get them from my... I think I should cut all the extra land card effects. I'm going to cut Rampaging Baton. I'm going to cut Avenger of Zendikar. Avenger of Zendikar is 5 green for a 5/5 creature elemental. When Avenger of Zendikar enters the battlefield, you may create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each plant creature you control. That's good. Omnath, Locus of Mana. Of Rage. 3 red, green for legendary creature elemental. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 5/5 red green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Whenever Omnath, Locust of Rage, or another elemental you control dies, deals 3 damage to target creature or player. It being a 7-drop means that I won't be dropping too many lands after it. I'm going to cut Crop Rotation. Crop Rotation is green for an instant. As an additional cost to cast Crop Rotation, sacrifice a land, search your library for a land card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Gonna cut that. I'm gonna cut all the cards that just let me play additional land cards. Burgeoning. Oh man, I like Burgeoning. It synergizes with Horn of Greed is 3 for an artifact. Whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. So I can draw a card every time I play a land. So my opponent plays a land, I play a land, I draw a card. It's great. No, it's not worth running. Exploration, you may play an additional land on each of your turns. I think I'm actually going to cut Horn of Greed. It's really greedy. My opponents might draw cards from it, sure, but it's not really quite good enough. Is Ayula's Influence a distraction? Ayula's Influence is green for an enchantment. Discard a land card, create a 2/2 green bear creature token. Yeah, I think that's a distraction from my main theme. I want to be dealing damage, not creating 2/2 bears. Oh my gosh, I still have 160 cards. So let's cut down on these lands a little bit. I've got 57 lands. And basically I just want the lands to be able to fling them. So I want a lot of lands, but not this many. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut 12. And I'm going to be at 45 lands. You know what? I'm gonna cut 16. Or 15 rather. So I'm at 42 lands right now, which is a lot. So I still have 150 cards. This deck is quite expensive. $1,600. Jesus. Mostly it's the lands, which are $500. Okay, you know what? This is too expensive. I'm gonna filter by full deck and by price. Here it is. Oh, is it? Yeah. Architect does this thing where it makes soul rings really expensive. Okay, what have we got? Scalding Tarn, $80. Cut it. Misty Rainforest, $80. Cut it. Verdant Catacombs, $70. Cut it. Renin 6. That's sad, but it's $55. So cut it. Return up to 1 target. It's red-green for a legendary planeswalker Ren. +1, return up to target one target land card from your graveyard to your hand, and -1, Renin 6 deals 1 damage to any target. Soul Ring is, I will just change the edition, so it's not the Magic Fest 2019 one. We'll go with Commander Anthology. Let's see if it's gonna work. Okay, that worked. Sylvan Library is $50, 1 in a green enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand, draw on this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card on top of your library, cut it. Arid Mesa, $40. Marsh Flats, $40. Fabled Passage is... How much is Fabled Passage? Oh, it's apparently cheap. Oh, only 20. 20 is a lot. I don't know. I'm not gonna cut it yet. Oracle of Moldiah, 3 in a green for a creature elf shaman. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play the top card of your library if it's a land card. I'm gonna cut that, $40. We also have Azusa, Lost But Seeking, $35. Let's cut that. Damnation, $35. Let's cut that. Demonic Tutor, $35. Great Henge. How much is the Great Henge? The Great Henge is $20. So let's cut that. We have Prismatic Vista, $30. Toxic Deluge, $30. Polluted Delta, $30. Assassin's Trophy. Let's see. Assassin's Trophy is $20. Urborg, $20. Bloodstained Mire, $20. Necropotence, $20. Wooded Foothills, $20. Worldly Tutor, $20. Fabled Passage, $20. Ooh, Life from the Loam is actually quite good. It's $20. I'm going to leave it in. Crucible of Worlds, I will also leave in. Blood Crypt for $20 is going to get cut. Once Upon a Time. How much is Once Upon a Time? Once Upon a Time is $6, but it's not that good of a card anyways. Illusionist Bracers can get cut because it only works with a couple of cards. What else do we have? Let's cut a couple more cards for budget. Ad Nauseam is $17. I'm gonna leave that in. Winds of Change is red for a sorcery. Each player counts the cards in his or her hand, shuffles those cards into his or her deck, and then draws that many cards. I'm gonna tracker. I'm actually gonna cut. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, investigate. Put a colorless clue artifact token onto the battlefield with 2. Sacrifice this artifact. Draw a card, and whenever you sacrifice a clue, put a +1/+1 counter on Tireless Tracker. I'm gonna cut that. I'm also gonna cut Obnix the Fallen, which is 3 black for a legendary creature demon. Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may have target player lose 3 life. If you do, put 3 +1/+1 counters on objects, so list the following. And also squandered resources, which is black-green for an enchantment. Sacrifice a land, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any type the sacrificed land could produce. Play this ability as a mana source. I'm going to cut that. It's nice to have some land acceleration, but Titania, Protector of Argoth, is $16. I'm also going to cut that. When it enters, I may return target land card from my graveyard to the battlefield, and whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3 green elemental. I don't intend for that to be happening. Alright. That is enough budget cuts for now. I will do more budget cuts soon. So I'm thinking about Barrel Down Sokenzan because the reason that I'm running it is Barrel Down Sokenzan is 2 in a red for an instant arcane sweep. Return any number of mountains you control to their owner's hand. Barrel Down Sokenzan deals damage to target creature equal to twice the number of mountains returned this way. So let's see, how many mountains? 9. So I'm running 9 forests right now, although I am running some fetches. I don't think that's very much. It's a quarter of my lands. A little bit less. So basically the advantage is I can get my mountains back. So I can get a quarter of my lands back and then deal 2 damage for each thing I bounced. I'm going to cut that. It's just not quite efficient enough. Vendetta is great. Shadow of the Grave is great. Lightning Storm is great. Chaos Warp, Beast Within, Necrologia, Bedevil, Harrow. Constant Mists is interesting. Constant Mists is 1 in a green for an instant with buyback, sacrifice a land. And it says prevent all combat damage creatures deal no combat damage this turn. So I can protect myself by sacrificing my lands, which isn't as bad in this deck as in other decks. Plus, this deck just wants to do not very much in the early game and then go off and win in the late game. So I'm going to leave that. What else do we have? I'm going to go ahead and cut Windswept Teeth, which is another land, because it is $18. Alright, what else do we have? I'm going to cut Zerta Druid, which is red-green for a creature human druid. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Whenever you tap Zerta Druid for mana, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It's just not high impact enough. Oh, I'm going to cut Wheel of Fortune. No wonder this deck is so expensive. Yeah, so Wheel of Fortune is 2 in a red for a sorcery. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. It's great, but it's also $100. Alright, so I feel pretty comfortable with the overall price of this deck. It's at $350, and if you cut the shock lands, that could bring down the price even more. Okay, now let's figure out which cards I would like to run. Wayward Swordtooth is 2 in a green for a creature dinosaur 5/5 with Ascend. If you control 10 or more non-land permanents, or 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. And you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and Wayward Swordtooth can't attack or block unless you have the City's Blessing. I don't really want to be running cards that just have me draw, that give me the ability to play extra lands. Okay, what else? Oh, I can cut Scourge Familiar, which is 4 and a black for a creature imp. Choose and discard a card. Add black to your mana pool. Underrealm Lich is 3 black-green for a creature zombie elf shaman. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put one of them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And you can give it indestructible. If you pay 4 life and tap it. Well, if it's already tapped, you can still use it. What's next? What about Cavalier of Flame? Is that good enough? I'm gonna say for 5 mana. No, it's good enough because when it dies, it deals X damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard. What else do we have? World Shaper is 3 and a green for a creature merfolk shaman, and whenever it attacks, you may put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard, and whenever it dies, put all land cards from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. Now, originally I was thinking, alright, well, I can go off, discard all my lands, and then get them back, but I don't think that's really useful because I should be winning that turn. So I'm going to cut World Shaper, and I'm going to cut Splendid Reclamation, which is 3 and a green for sorcery. Return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Alright, what is next? Mina and Den, Wildborn, is 2 red-green for a legendary creature elf ally. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Red-green, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. What else do we have? Ooh, Dread Presence. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, you choose one. You draw a card and lose a life, or it deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life. Let's count the swamps. We have 7. We have 8. Nine. We have 9 swamps in this deck. Now, it's a little bit deceiving because of fetch lands. I probably actually have 15 things that can make a swamp enter the battlefield, but I'm going to cut it anyways. It's just not quite effective enough. You know, I'm just thinking because no, never mind. Okay. What else do we have? We have... Okay, what about things that are excessively hard to cast? Do I have any triple colors? We have Worm Harvest, but that doesn't count. What about Praetor's Council? No, it's really late game. The only thing that would be problematic is Seismic Assault, which is red for a turn enchantment. Discard a land card. Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to any target. But just because that's such an important part of the deck, I'm gonna let it slide. Sometimes you just gotta hope for the best. Oh, Retreat to Hydra. Definitely gonna cut that. An enchantment, landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, choose 1. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains death touch until end of turn. Or each opponent loses 1 life and you gain a life. I'm gonna cut that. Okay, how many cards am I at? Ooh, 119. Okay. What else? Let's go through the creatures. Okay, I could cut... No, that's good. Scape Shift. Do I want to cut Scape Shift? Yeah. Scape Shift is 2 green for a sorcery. Sacrifice any number of lands. Search your library for up to that many land cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle your library. Well, I basically got rid of all the landfall triggers, so it doesn't trigger those. And the advantage of having lands in my graveyard is somewhat nice, I guess, but not that great. I'm just gonna cut it. It doesn't really do anything anymore. Oh, Throes of Chaos. Yeah, Throes of Chaos is 3 in a red for sorcery with Cascade and Retrace. Cascade is whenever you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. I'm going to cut that. Ooh, I'm also going to cut Sink into Takunema. As I said, I'm only running 8 swamps. Sweep, return any number of swamps you control to their owner's hand. Target player discards a card for each swamp. Return it this way. Oh yeah. Reality Scramble. 2 red for sorcery. Put target permanent you own on the bottom of your library. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card that shares a card type with that permanent. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library until end of turn. Retrace, you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. Okay. What are we at? 115. Alrighty then. Let's see. Okay, now I'm gonna go with the full deck, and I'm gonna sort by CMC. See if I can cut some things on the higher end. Blasphemous Act isn't actually 9 CMC. Praetor's Council. 5 green for sorcery. Return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Council. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of it. So, Praetor's Council is good because I can fling all my lands and then just get them back. But 8 mana is a lot. If I'm going off, this would be the only thing I'd be able to cast. And I think the best way to do it when you're going off is to cast multiple. I don't think that Praetor's Council is going to be enough to let me win on its own. So I'm gonna cut it. Alright, let's cut Rishkar's Expertise. Rishkar's Expertise is 4 green for a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. You know what? Let's look at the... Alright, what other high CMC cards are there? Sandstone Oracle is great. There's going to be an opponent that has like 10, 20 cards in hand. You're going to be able to draw a lot of cards off of that. 7 mana for a 4/4 artifact creature Sphinx. With flying, when Sandstone Oracle enters the battlefield, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw cards equal to the difference. It's great. Nullspine Dragon. Nullspine Dragon is 5 red for a creature dragon. 7/5 with flying. When Nullspine Dragon comes into play, you may discard your hand and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to target opponent this turn. Say you had 4 lands and your Borborygmos out. Borborygmos says, discard a land card. Borborygmos deals 3 damage to target creature or player. That means you're then going to draw 12 cards. And in those 12 cards, probably 5 or 6 of them are going to be lands, which you can then deal more damage. It's great. And if you're going off, you might be able to draw even more cards than that. Alright, we have Dragon Mage. This one, I'm really unsure about. It's 5 red for a 5/5 creature dragon wizard with flying. When Dragon Mage Deals combat damage to a player. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. So I can use those 7 cards and chuck them in every turn. But I think I'm going to cut it. I need to make a lot of cuts, so I'm just going to cut this card. The fact that it has to survive around the table to work at all is just kind of a deal breaker. Oh, I know what else I can cut. I can cut Guess Grimoire. Guess Grimoire is 4 for an artifact. Whenever an opponent discards a card from his or her hand, you may draw a card. It's great, but there's just a limited number of things that work, of cards that work with that. I'm also going to cut Teferi's Puzzle Box. Teferi's Puzzle Box is 4 for an artifact. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player puts the cards in his or her hand on the bottom of his or her library, then draws that many cards. Well, this works with Alhammar's Archive. It's not really that good, just wheeling over and over again. Alhammar's Archive I'm also going to cut because it only works with a small amount of things. 5 for a legendary artifact. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. If you would draw a card except for the first one you draw on each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. Alright, what else do we have? So Rishkar's Expertise is interesting. I'm not sure if I want to cut it or not. It's 4 green for a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 5 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Let me see. Let's go into types. See how many creatures I have, first of all. Alright, so I have 18 creatures. And let's see. I have 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's go by power 3 and above, because that's when I would definitely run that card in my deck. So I have 9, 10 cards that are power 3 and above. So if we go with the hypergeometric distribution calculator, and I expect to be playing this on turn 6, so the sample size is going to be 13. Population is 99, 10, and the number of successes in the population is 10. Oh, I just want to draw 1. So assuming I have a 77% chance of this drawing me at least 3 cards, which is when this card becomes really good. And that doesn't even calculate anything to do with the ability to have more. Now, that does assume that if I draw it, I will play it. I will have played it beforehand, but that tells me pretty much that it's definitely worth it. Alright, what else do we have? How much is Arcane Signet? Oh, only $7. That went down. Oh, do I want to throw in Felwar Stone? Okay, how much do I care about ramp in this deck? How much do I really want ramp? I don't think I do. I have a lot of cycling and a lot of lands, and a lot of cards that I want to play early in the game. No, I care about ramp. I want to be ramping in the early game to work into the later game. But, so, do I want to run ramp or not is the question. Right now, I'm not sure. Because I do have a lot of low CMC cards and a lot of high CMC cards. So I definitely want to be ramping into the high CMC cards. And I want to be working towards winning on a turn, which would require a lot of mana. That's the argument for it. But the argument against it is I also have a lot of cards in here that work really well, that this deck could just function without really ramping, right? I could just sit back and play other cards that synergize with my game plan. I think I'm gonna run some ramp, but not as much as I usually would. So I'm gonna cut Hero, which is 2 and a green for an instant as an additional cost to play it. Sacrifice a land, and search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them into play. Then shuffle your library. So I'm going to cut that. Then I'm going to cut, let's see, I'm going to throw in Falwar Stone. Falwar Stone is 2 for an artifact. Add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. I actually side with talismans over the signets, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the signets. Rakdos, Gruul, Golgari, and Golgari signets. Alright, so that leaves me with 107 cards. So I could cut some lands. The appeal of lands, though, is that I will draw more with so that I can go off more effectively. How much do I want to be playing? Sign in Blood. Black for sorcery. Target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life. I think I'm gonna cut Scouting Check, which is 1 and a green for sorcery. Search your library for any number of basic land cards, reveal them, and set them aside. Shuffle your library, then put those cards on top of it in any order. Yeah, I'm going to cut that. And then I'm going to cut... I'm going to cut Cultivate, which is 2 and a green for sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, reveal those cards, and put 1 onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle your library. And Kodama's Reach, which is 2 and a green for sorcery arcane. Search your library. It's the same thing. Which is the same thing. Alright, 104 cards. Alright, so the cards that I'm questioning right now mainly is Flame Jab, which is a red for sorcery, and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. And it has Retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. This synergizes really well with a lot of different things, but it's making me think, how much is it? Like, paying a mana makes it so I can't go off with it, which is when I really want to use it. So I don't think it's worth running. Then that draws into question Molten Vortex. Red, discard a land card. Molten Vortex deals 2 damage to target creature or player. And it's an enchantment, and it has that as an activated ability. I don't know. Like, is it worth having this synergy? I'm going to say it is. I'm going to say for the better versions of that effect, it certainly is. That makes me think of Living Twister. Living Twister is red, green for a creature elemental 2/5. 1 red, discard a land card. Living Twister deals 2 damage to any target. And green, return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand. So basically 3 mana. I mean, being able to return tapped lands I controlled in my hand are great. It's really good. But that 1 in a red ability, which is what I'm mainly playing it for, no, I think I'm going to keep it. You don't know. I want to keep my lands in my hand until I go off, so I'm going to cut it. Then I'm also going to cut Molten Vortex. Oh, okay. 101 cards. This is the final stretch. This is where it gets really difficult. Alright, what's the budget on this? $279. That's really not bad. I mean, if you want to make it even more fine than that, pretty sure there's still a couple of shocklands in here. Are there? Doesn't look like it. Yeah, there's one. Stomping Ground. Loaded. Oh, Waste Not. Easy. I mean, I just cut a lot of my real effects for my opponents. So, yeah. 1 and a black. Whenever an opponent discards a creature card, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Whenever an opponent discards a land card, add black to your mana pool. And whenever an opponent discards a non-creature, non-land card, draw a card. And we're done. 100 cards, $270.28. According to Architect, Architect has a horrible pricing machine. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you next week.